The first question, what is ugly about that? Decimals. So, of course, you multiply by 2 to get x squared plus 7x plus 12, which is exactly like the question I gave you in warm-up. X plus 3, x plus 4 has to equal 0. So x has to equal negative 3 and negative 4, which is C. Questions? Excellent. Factor completely. I need factors of 75 that add to negative 20, minus 5, and minus 15. On a multiple choice test, you don't even need to know how to factor. You could try all the answers if you wanted to. D. Next dxt. Take out a negative 8, and that of course leaves you with x squared minus 15x minus 54, which is negative 8x minus 18, and x plus 3 equals 0. So it had to be 18 and negative 3. A. And this one is negative 5 x squared plus 11x plus, I'm sorry, oh yeah, equals negative 10. One sec. Go for Myers. Indeed it is. He's in R301. Okay. Nothing. Anyways, sorry, I took out a negative, so that's negative 11, so it's negative 5 x squared minus 11x plus 10, which is, of course, 10 and 1, negative 5x minus 10, x minus 1, so x had to be positive 10 and 1, C. Here you could factor this right away because they're both squares, or you could factor something out and then square that. Most likely you all did this. Which means 12x minus 18 has to equal 0, 12x has to equal 18, x has to equal 18 twelfths, plus or minus 18 twelfths, which of course you simplify to 3 halves, B. And this one's a little bit tricky. What do you know about this question? You know that 5x squared, no, not squared yet, 5x minus 4 times x plus 10 has to equal 72, yeah? So you also know that 5x squared plus 46x minus 40 has to equal 72, yeah? Which means you also know 5x squared plus 46x minus 112 would have to equal 0, yeah? Which you also know that x plus 56 over 5 and x minus 10 over 5 will give you 56 minus 10 is 46, 56 times 10 is 560. Then you get 5x plus 56 and x minus 2 equals 0. Now, so then it has to be either 2 or this one, right? But when you do this one, it's 5x equals negative 56. X equals negative 56 over 5, which is negative 11.2. If x is negative 11.2, what is negative 11.2 plus 10? A negative number. Is it possible to have a negative distance? No, so it couldn't be that, so it had to be 2. A. Square root both sides. X plus 1 equals plus or minus root 43. Bring the 1 over. Negative 1 plus or minus root 43. B. And lastly, this was pretty tricky. I'll give you credit for that. I would move the 6 over there to get 5x squared plus 20x. Then, as always, I would factor this side, x squared plus 4x, leaving the blank, which is plus 4, which means how much should I add to this side of the equation? 5 times 4, which is 20, right? So then I'm going to add 20 to this side. So now 26 equals 5x plus 2 squared. And then I just solve that. So 26 fifths equals x plus 2 squared, right? Square root both sides. X plus 2 equals plus or minus the root of 26 fifths. Negative 2 plus or minus the root of 26 fifths. Now, I said I wanted the roots to the nearest hundredth, yes? In math class, I would rationalize this denominator, right? But since I actually want the decimals, I can just use my calculator here, can't I? Because this is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 5.2. And then you just do it. And it's something like 0.28 and 4.28 negative. And that would have been worth 2 marks, making the whole thing out of 9. Now, once again, please recognize factoring skills are important. Algebra skills are important to go forward here. I will come around and get your marks today while you're working. What? I'm sorry? Show you the back again? Which number? All that has been recorded, and I left you right, not there, right there. I left you with these 3, and I even labeled them for you. So, the quadratic formula is written on the page, negative b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And I got them right there. What is a? 1. You can't forget that. Then you just fill it in. Negative b, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b, 4 squared, minus 4 times 1. What's c? Negative 6 over 2 times 1. Then we just sort it out. Negative 4 plus or minus the root of, what is 4 squared? 16. What's negative 4 times negative 6?
24.
Plus 24 over 2. Negative 4 plus or minus the root of 40 over 2. Now, Do we, slow down there. Slow your roll there, Microsoft. Oh, speaking of Microsoft, the guy died. Paul Allen, the other guy that founded Microsoft. The guy that wasn't Bill Gates. He died last night. Yeah. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it had been in remission for ages and ages and ages and ages and ages and ages and ages, and then it came back. So I'm done now, or I have an answer, yes?
Yeah.
But of course I can go further because this is 4 times 10, yeah? Mm-hmm. So what's coming out?
2.
Negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 10 over 2. And what do you see there, there, and there? Simplify again to negative 2 plus or minus root 10. Everybody cool? Now, if I wanted the actual numbers that would go on a graph, it would be negative 2 plus like 3.1, right? And negative 2 minus 3.1. Well, that's the square root of 10.
Oh,
okay.
Yep.
B. Again. Negative B. What's B in B?
Negative B.
So what do I write?
Negative B.
No.
Oh, no.
Because it's
Positive.
negative B.
Positive
3 plus or minus the root of 9 minus 4 times what?
2 times negative 7.
2 times negative 7. Good. I didn't fool anybody. Well, I didn't fool Ayaka. 2 times 2. 3 plus or minus the root of, what's negative 4 times 2?
56.
Negative 8. What's negative 8 times negative 7?
56.
So that's 65 over 4. Can I go any further than that?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not a perfect square. There's no perfect square.
There's no perfect squares in 65? What is it? 65 is 13 times 5, yeah?
Yeah.
Any groups? No. And lastly, we'll go green. Now, I tried to fool you here by labeling that C. Did I fool anybody? I know I didn't fool you, Ayaki. You were the one that said it out loud. I even gave you credit on the recording. Now, these are all labeled ABC, but they're not ready to be put in the formula yet, are they? What should this really be? 3x squared minus 7x minus 6. Now it can go into the formula, which is 7 plus or minus the root of 49 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times negative 6 is
121.
4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 6 is 72. 49 minus 72, right?
Oh, no, it's plus.
Yeah, okay. Over
1.
6. 2 times 3. Then I sorted out 7 plus or minus the root of 121 over 6. 7 plus or minus 11 over 6. 18 over 6. Or negative 4 over 6, which is...
You can simplify it too.
Yeah, I know. 3 or negative 2/3. Can everybody use the quadratic formula? Now, where is the quadratic formula fraught with the possibility of screwing up if you work fast? Where can you really gum it up? I'll tell you where you guys are going to make your mistakes. Right there. You're going to forget to do the opposite of B. And you're going to forget that negative right there if either one of those is a negative. Is everybody cool? All right, turn the page over. Let's apply this situation. The sum of the squares of two consecutive integers is 613. Now, you all know how to solve this from grade 10 in another way. But now we're going to solve it quadratically. So, sum of the squares. So how many numbers do I have? Read the question. How many numbers do I have? It says right there. How many numbers do I need to find? Two. Excellent. So I have two numbers, don't I? Number one, do I know what the first number is? No. So what should I give it? A name? Let's call him Bob. No, we shouldn't give him a name. What do we give to an unknown in math class?
X or Y.
A letter. We always use X. So I don't want to use X today. Give me another letter. H. Great. Now what do I know about my second number? It's consecutive, right? So it's the next number, right? So it's H, then what? Plus or minus 1. Does it matter which way? No. I'm going to go plus 1 because negatives make you guys a little bit, right? Okay. Now what else do I know about these numbers?
Is 613.
The sum of the squares, right? So how do I square the first one? How do I write it? H squared. Plus, how do I square the second one?
H squared.
Nope. How do I write that squared?
H plus 1 squared.
And what does that equal?
613.
Can we solve that? Of course we can. What do we need to do there? Not factor it.
Solve it.
Expand it. What does that become?
H squared plus 2H plus 1.
Now what do I need to do? Of course you can. Why wouldn't you stick around for the lesson? You don't need to know how to do any of this. You'll be fine. He said, having the sarcasm completely lost. What do I need to do now? Combine like terms. So what do I got? Now what do I got to do? You just did a whole quiz on it. What do I got to do?
Get rid of root 2.
I would divide everything by 2, except it's going to be a pain because that's 1 and 613. I'd bring that over first, right? 2h squared plus 2h equal, minus what? Equals 0. Now I would divide by 2. H squared plus h minus 306 equals 0, yeah? And that's yucky to factor, right? Crazy yucky to factor. Probably won't factor. But fortunately, we know that A equals 1, B equals 1, and C equals negative 306, right? Do I know something that uses A, B, and C? Of course I do. I'm going to get my good friend the quadratic formula. H equals, what is negative B?
1.
Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of. What is B squared? 1. Minus 4 times 1 times what's C?
306.
No. Negative 306. Over what? 2 times A, which is what? 1. Now I simplify. Negative 1 plus or minus 1 minus. Is it minus or plus here?
Plus.
Plus. 306 times 4 is 1,224, yeah? Over 2. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1,225 over 2. If I'm not mistaken, that is 35, yeah? Negative 1 plus or minus 35 over 2, which is either what? Negative 36 over 2, or what? 34 over 2, which means H is either negative 18 or 17, correct? So what are my two numbers?
Negative 18 and 7.
Negative 18 and
17.
negative 17, or what?
Or positive 18 and positive 17.
Or 17 and 18. Does everybody understand? What step should you do that I didn't do? Check. Because I've done this a million times. I've checked it. You guys should check it, right? So all you do is you run it through. 17 squared is 289. 18 squared is 324. It's 289, 324, 613. Yeah. Negative 17 squared is still positive 289. Negative 17 plus 1, or we have to do minus 1 that time, and it would be the same answer. Yeah? Yeah. Solve using the quadratic formula. There, 3 of them are normal, 1's weird. Go. I like to write it out when I am practicing. And here, this one is going to be positive C, because I would move it over there, yeah? And when you've done that, I will remind you of a couple of things. I'm going to pause this while you... If you can simplify it pretty like, you simplify it pretty like. Everybody understand? If you can make it pretty, make it pretty. If you have to leave it yucky, leave it yucky. Okay? Class is over in 9 minutes. These two are going to be a problem. But you know what to do, don't you? Think about what makes these two yucky, and think about the algebra that you already know how to do before the 11th grade. There is 7 and 8. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, it does you no good to write down those two answers and not work this through. Number 9 and number 10. I am leaving you on. It's recording, you know, Ayaka.
I know. I'm just wondering about it.
But, okay. 9. What is bothersome in 9? You don't like that fraction, and there's no a term, right? Because there's no x squared. So you got to figure that out. What fixes that? You would do what? You'd move what to the other side? This? Just the x? Okay, but then I still got to get rid of it because it's in a fraction, right? How do I get rid of it? How would I solve this? How do I get rid of that x? Right. You multiply both sides by x. So how do you get rid of that x? Almost. You got to multiply this whole side by x. There you go. And what do I need to do with 10? Cross multiply. What you already know how to do from previous years. There and there. And then what? You do the multiplication, then what do you do with your big, long, gigantic answer? Put everything on one side, collect your like terms, and then go back to the quadratic formula. I want you to do that one. I want you to do number 4. I do not want you to do number 5. We are going to do something with number 5 tomorrow. Okay? Somebody just say my name.